Thank you for joining on the East to West Hunts podcast. I am your host, Alex Gruen, owner of East to West Hunts. Every year, thousands of hunters hit the mountains thinking they're ready. And every year, most of them find out the hard way that they weren't. And the truth is, success in the field doesn't start when you lace up those boots opening morning. It starts months before. In this episode, I'm breaking down the biggest reasons that hunters show up unprepared and what you could do to make sure this isn't the year that you fall short. So, we're going to go rapid fire through these points, and I want you to take some notes and really hopefully this hits home because that is the entire point of this. I want you to be successful, and these are the things that I see every year impacting folks. So number one is physical prep. I talk about fitness a lot when it comes to my podcast or with clients. Well, I just got back from a workout myself, and this is really hitting home because I am prepping for season, and the physicality of these hunts is a big factor. So the mistake here, hunters are waiting until the season to get in shape. This should be something that you are doing year round. And so if you're not taking care of yourself, the reality is that you are going to have a hard time just cramming something in the last month before you get into the field. Okay, so the truth here, mountain fitness is different than gym fitness. And like myself, I live in the Midwest. Not everybody has the opportunity to just go in the field and hike up the mountain, but there are things that you can do. So, on a client perspective, I'm really big about giving, a generalized workout plan to get folks out there and give them some ideas. And I've shared those on different podcast episodes before. So there's nothing hidden there, but the reality is you got to get out and use your pack. That's a big one. Or go to the gym and put yourself in some tougher situations. So, just lifting weights isn't going to cut it for you. But if you are lifting weights, you certainly want to emulate some of the movements that you are going to be having to work through in the mountains. And you want to get your core and you want to get your legs super strong and you want to work on your cardiovascular fitness, right? So, if you can't go on a mountain hike every day, you certainly can still run. You certainly can still do a Stairmaster. You can get on an incline on a treadmill, and you certainly can add some endurance into your muscles and some strength as well. So these are big general components that you really should be looking to improve. So in my opinion, you should mix strength and cardio work. And if you can, I'm a huge believer in get your pack, put 25, 35, 45, get up to 50, 55 pounds, and start doing like a hike once a week. Everybody's got somewhere that they can hike. And if you don't, you could be the crazy person like myself that sometimes I can't go drive 15, 20 minutes to one of the parks or, around my house. I'm walking around in the neighborhood. It's totally fine. Lace up your boots and get out there. The moral of the story is you want to know how that load is going to feel on your body. And a lot of times, honestly, if you don't do it for a while, you're gonna feel it. I mean, you feel it in your glutes, you feel it in your hammies, you might feel it in your calves, you might feel it in your core, your lower back. And that's a good test point to say, like, ooh, I really need to improve on these things. So if you are working out year round and maybe tweaking some things as you get closer to the season, fantastic for you. If you are going out on a hunt for September or October and you haven't started, you need to get your ass in gear. So this is kind of the reality check of where those misses come in. Number two is shooting practice and weapon readiness. I think those are two big ones. Relatively the same thing, right? It's essentially like maybe you got a new rifle and you're just putting a scope on it, you haven't shot it yet, and you're going out for an October hunt. Reality is you need to be shooting that thing a lot to really feel proficient. The other thing is going to the range once and shooting your bow at 20, 30, 40 yards and you're on par and then you stop is not going to be sufficient because that's not presenting you all the opportunities that things are going to look like in the field. And then the other one is you've only shot a few times. You got to be consistent with it. Shooting from a bench and getting your rifle sighted in at 100 yards and then not shooting again after that, not a good point of success. So I'd really say get really familiar with your weapon and you need to shoot it more often. So a lot of times what ends up happening is you get comfortable with, oh, I sighted this thing in, or I shot my bow a couple times, I'm feeling good. And then you're not practicing in a lot of different positions, and that is going to be the recipe for failure, right? So things that come to mind for me: practice shooting prone, practice shooting kneeling, sitting, shoot off your pack. I've had instances where I've had to do all of those things, and sometimes they're uncomfortable, but because I've at least dry fired or practiced getting into those scenarios, it presents a lot more of a familiar situation. And in reality, what we are familiar with is what we trust, right? So we are going to trust the shot off of the bench because that is what we are feeling confident in when we are practicing, because that's always what we do. So maybe you don't even have to go to the range, right? There's times where I literally just have my backpack and I have my rifle that doesn't have anything loaded in it, and I'm sitting up against a wall pretending it is a tree, and I am using that to mimic, what I'm going to be doing in the field, shooting off my pack, and then I'm going to go and utilize my bipod and get on the ground, and then I'm going to be kneeling. These are all ideas for you of how you can practice without having to go to the range, but it is going to show you that you're not steady, and how can you fix those things. So the last thing you want is you seeing an animal that you obviously took a lot of time to go do this hunt, and then you botch the shot because you're fumbling around and you're not confident and you don't trust what you are going to be doing because you just don't feel capable. Stretch your range, practice, be confident, don't be hopeful. That's a big one. And lastly, I would say just double check all of your tuning before you go. You might have shot your rifle 50 times and then something bumped it, or you might have shot your bow and then something comes off. Literally, I can think exactly of a situation where I was hunting, I was bow hunting, and my bow was totally fine, and then somewhere it got bumped a little bit, and I didn't realize that I ended up shooting an arrow and I'm off by like a foot. Totally threw me for a loop. So I'm sharing truthful experiences of stuff that's happened to myself too. And the reality is, I didn't practice in the morning on my bag before going out, or I didn't practice in camp before going out. I can't remember if it was an afternoon or morning hunt, but whatever it was, I got back to camp, and I ended up, shooting and realizing that I was off. I luckily could still get it on the bag, but I was off and I had to tune everything in. And I put pencil markings or marker markings on my sight, and that was the difference maker for me of success or failure. So I ended up being successful on the hunt, but I ended up having to miss something, and luckily was fortunate enough to have another opportunity. So good stuff there to share, but definitely look into that. Number three is the lack of scouting or intel, right? So I think of the mistake in a sense of you're showing up blind, or you're hoping to stumble into things. So let's use an elk or a deer hunt. You might have talked to somebody that gave you information, so you're feeling really all high and mighty about this info, and your buddy told you to turn right here, and everything is going to be hunky dory in this area, and you get there, and you know it's just not successful. Maybe there's cattle or sheep in that area that are grazing, or maybe there was a fire and you had no idea there was a fire the last year. Whatever the case is, there could be many instances, or there could be other people in that area, and now all of a sudden you're encroaching on their spot that they've been hunting for the past couple days, and you're certainly not going to be hunting on top of them. So that's going to cause you to deviate. Now you have no plan. So I'm a huge believer in your hunting success is going to be built before you step foot in that field. E-scouting, obviously the information, you really should have a really solid hunt plan put together. I feel so confident and so happy when I go over a hunt plan with a client because they feel really, really good before they step into their unit, and how they're going to enact or take action in that unit from the day that they put up camp to all the different locations that they have available to them for whatever their is. I think that's huge. But use Google, use Go Hunt, use your Onyx maps, use Basement, whatever your planning stuff is for your GPS and your waypoints. Utilize it. and learn details about that area, learn where animals would be bedded, where they're going to be potentially feeding, consider what those travel corridors are going to look like, and have backup spots for either pressure, weather, or fire. Those are huge ones, right? There's a lot of fires going on out west right now. The last thing you want to do is walk into that area and realize it's super smoky and you can't glass, but you still have that tag. How are you going to pivot on that hunt if you're presented with that scenario? Okay. And that's a real example. I remember hunting in Nevada. I kept my tag. Nevada allowed me to return my tag if I wanted to. I was stubborn. I got into that area. It was smoky. It certainly changed from the prior year. It did change the animal patterns from the prior year. And luckily enough, I did find animals, but it was much more difficult than what it was the prior year. The densities of animals were completely different. And it did require changes to how my hunt plan was being utilized. So for somebody that's not prepared and not having a plan, B, C, D, E, you're going to be screwed because what was once the right thing is now the wrong thing, and you really have no plan for it. So that'll definitely cause you to have some failure there. Okay. Reason number 4 is the lack of familiarity with your gear or your gear system. So I'll use an example. I rent out gear to clients all the time. If they were to get that gear a day before they go out on their hunt, and they have no way of using it or testing it, probably not a great experience, right? So a lot of times I'm sending stuff out weeks in advance because I do want them to play with it and get used to it before they're going out on their hunt. That's just personal preference, but kind of use that same aspect for yourself. If you're going to buy new boots or you're going to buy a new pack or you're going to buy gear and keep it in plastic until the day that you go out, you're literally going to be fumbling when you're out in the field because you're going to be screwing around with this stuff, making noise. You're not going to know how to use it. You're going to be spending more time focused on, you know, how you get your binoculars focused, how to use your binocular harness. Oh man, my pack hurts. Well, it's not fitted right. And those are all things that you could have been doing prior to season, months prior to season, to break in those boots or test your pack out and see how it feels in your shoulders and your back, so on and so forth. So the truth here is your gear should be an extension of your body and you should feel that confident with it, right? I know exactly in my pack where every single thing is because every year I put my stuff in the exact same spots and I am so familiar with it. I trust that everything is exactly where it needs to be. And that's the truth of it, right? Confident and I'm comfortable with what's going on and I'm ready to rock it out when I am out in the field. So, good tips here: break in your boots months ahead of time, get some miles on them, right? Recognize if you're going to have any sort of blisters or whatnot. And, another one, I did this last year. I did a 100-mile challenge and we did what we called a shakedown trip, which was essentially like fully having all the stuff that I would go out. And certainly backpacking is a little bit different than backcountry hunting, but in the same realm, has some similarities too, just not the same amount of weight. But it was imperative to go out and actually see how I was going to feel with the full setup of stuff. It's the same exact thing that you do a shakedown trip with your hunting gear. Aside for your weapon, go out there with your pack and all the stuff, set up your tent, set up your stove, set up your filters for water, use them and feel really confident. So that way, when you go out for your hunt, it's like second nature because you're fresh with it. Okay. Your fifth segment here is going to be on your tag strategy and regulations. So you might have gotten your tag, maybe you applied last minute, or maybe you're getting something last minute over the counter, and maybe you're not familiar with all the rules for the unit. It's not unheard of that folks apply and they don't realize that they got a either sex tag or vice versa. They think it's an either sex tag and they got a bull tag or a buck tag. So just make sure that you know all of the rules. Some tags are also limited. So maybe you're in a unit, but you only have access to a partial part of the unit, maybe west of the road that's it going into the center of the unit, or you're only allowed to hunt on private property, or whatever the case is. You really need to know the details to that. Another good example would be, let's say you are hunting spike elk. Certain states are going to have certain regulations of what constitutes a spike. You really should know what that is, because in the event that you have one in front of you and you're thinking that's not legal and it might be, or vice versa, you certainly don't want to screw the pooch. Okay. So, moral of the story, know your boundaries, know what the restrictions are for either like your weapon, know if you have access to particular areas only. And I would definitely study like harvest data, success rates, all that other stuff. I'm huge on the data part, which is obviously why I love the tag applications and doing that with clients. But if you're doing stuff on your own, definitely pay attention to those things. Number 6 is your mental preparation. Okay, this one I think really can catch people off guard and maybe you would never think about it, but many hunters are going to quit about 48 hours after it gets tough. Okay. The truth is, the mountains test the grittiest parts, or maybe let's put it this way, they test your grit more than your gear, right? So a lot of people put emphasis on their gear like it's going to be their saving grace. But the reality is it's going to be mental. So, kind of the running joke is, let's say you go on a backcountry hunt or you think you're going to go backcountry, you're going to hike in on your death march for 5 miles, and you really think you're a badass, and then you're so smoked after that first day that you're miserable on day two, and then all of a sudden you're like, man, I'm gonna sleep in. I want to get comfortable. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna go out midday for the evening, and then something happens, right? You get some rain or you get some snow, and things just it kind of suck factor starts building up. By that 48-hour mark, your brain has given you all the reasons of why you should get comfortable. And that is a lot of times where guys are going to be like, oh, I should go back to the truck. I didn't see anything. And I laugh because I know, like, you get back to that truck, you feel the toasty seats in there and the heat and whatever else that you have, the comforts. You're probably not getting far away from that truck again. And that is a huge difference maker for your success or not. So you need to expect that you have, long days ahead of you with maybe little game. It's not like everybody gets out in the field and, their first spot that they look at in glass, they're going to find what they're looking for. You might go days without seeing stuff. Okay, so that's just the reality of it. You need to be prepared for embracing discomfort. Okay. Bad weather, it's reality. Like, you're in the mountains, you're hunting, you're out in Mother Nature. Mother Nature does not care about you. It's Mother Nature. She's going to make you miserable. You got to be prepared for that. You got to be prepared for a heavy pack. Okay. Whether that's packing your stuff in or potentially packing things out or both, God bless. And you need to be prepared for early mornings. Okay. Early mornings suck for a lot of folks. Waking up at 3:30 or 4 in the morning to be prepared when you're sore. Yeah. A lot of people don't like that. So you really need to be prepared for those things. Number one key that I want to kind of highlight here: persistence kills more animals than skill does alone. I'll repeat that. Persistence kills more animals than skill does alone. You could be the most skillful person ever, but if you don't have the persistence and the grit, it's going to be significantly harder for you to be successful. All right. So that's a big factor. Number 7, it's going to be logistics and time management. All right. Your biggest mistake here would be overlooking your travel. I remember last year, one of the guys in camp was talking about how he's shocked at how far everything was apart, right? Like, things weren't close. And that was because, like, I had shot a deer, I had to pack it out. Then we had to go get ice, which took an hour to get some ice. And then there's really nothing around. And then we had to drive 3 hours to the nearest processor that would actually take in the meat because we still had time for our hunt. And I wanted to drop it off at the processor and then, continue hunting. That whole ordeal took like 5-6 hours. And then on the way back, we had to go out of our way to go still get my meat. Like, that time and time management is key. So you need to be prepared for knowing all of those logistics ahead of time. So the truth here, a great hunt can fall apart if your logistics aren't solid. So you really need to have that plan in play. Little tips that I would kind of point out here: plan your vacation days realistically. I love having a day free after I come back from a hunt. So if I was to come back on a Sunday, that following Monday is a freebie day for me. I got to recover, do laundry, put stuff away, get everything back in order with the family, whatever the case is, and then I go back into play. The other one, Have your coolers, have your taxidermist in play, know exactly who you're going to call if you need a pack out. Now, there's a lot of guide services that do pack outs, right? I would know exactly where those are and how much that costs if you need that. And lastly, have a plan B if you need to kind of back out and go into a different area. And that is going to cause you to have some logistics changes there. Right. Number 8 here is your nutrition and your recovery. The reality is there's a lot of mistakes when it comes to food. People don't plan accordingly, whether they eat too much or too little. But living on like granola bars and burning out after 2 days, kind of that 48-hour mark that I was talking about, is uh, is 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 reckless, honestly. So you really need to plan for your fuel, recovery, electrolytes. All those things are going to drive your performance. So good tips here to really kind of think about, plan how much food you're taking, the weight of your food, and really know the food density, right? So, pack caloric density is going to be big. So pack calorie dense foods such as like nut butters, jerky, good protein, any kind of bars that are going to have, 100 plus calories for every ounce. And then look at your freeze dried meals and look at, what the quality of those ingredients are going to be. I would highly advise that you have at least one electrolyte drink a day, and you really should prepare to have sleep, right? So know that if you're going to be running low on sleep, it's going to affect you. So really prioritize that sleep factor. Go to bed at a decent time when you get back at camp. Maybe you're not getting 8 hours, but don't screw around in camp for an extra 2, 3 hours. Don't drink alcohol when you get back to camp, planning to wake up at 4 in the morning. It's, that's a hot mess that you're putting yourself into. And lastly, number 9, weather and the seasonal conditions play a big role here. Okay. So the mistake is not knowing historical weather. Okay. If you don't know the weather history and maybe you don't pack a shell or you don't pack water, like waterproof gear, right? You don't have rain gear. It's a big mistake. I know guys that go out, they don't pack rain gear. Oh, I don't want to pack, an extra pound or two. And then they get absolutely soaked and then they're shivering. It's a big no-no. Recipe for disaster. That could end your hunt right there. So the truth is, weather changes the hunt. It also can change animals' behavior. You're going to see that when you see the barometric pressure going up or down. And what you'll see is as the barometric pressure is changing, you're going to see kind of that 18 to 24-hour mark. Ahead of that, you're going to see the animals feeding a lot. They know it's coming before you do. So you really need to use your data to kind of plan for. But study your historical temps, know if there's going to be snow in your season, pack for layers, whether that's going to be for really, really cold weather or for rain, and even heat, right? If you know you're going to be in really hot weather, know that you need to have the right gear to, get the perspiration and, get that drying effect on you. But you want to be able to adapt for hot weather, right? Water sources for animals. That's a big one. And for the cold, I think about like bedding cover, for snow. If you get a pounding of snow, aware of those migration routes for animals to go through because that could impact them a lot. So good stuff here. I wanted to make this a quick hit, but these are 9 big focus items for you. And here's the truth, guys. The guys who consistently notch tags, they aren't lucky. They're prepared. There's a reason that they're successful. They put in the time, they've built their fitness up, they've practiced with their weapons, they've tested their gear. So if you want this to be your season, you got to start now. Okay. You should have started before, but if you still have some time, you got to start now and then start keeping this in action for the future. But don't wait until the opener to figure out that you're not ready. Okay. Get after it, put in the work, and I promise the mountains will reward you. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with a buddy who needs to hear the truth about prep. And don't forget to subscribe to the East to West Hunts podcast, YouTube channel, so on and so forth, for any other real world hunting strategies that I add here. And don't hesitate to reach out as well. If you're looking for tag application help or hunt planning help, go ahead and book a time on the website, east2westhunts.com. Go ahead and click that free consultation button and let's get on the calendar and let's talk. Until next time, remember to hunt, scout, and repeat.
Attention hunters. Are you sick and tired of the complicated draw systems and tag applications that take place out west? Or maybe you want to plan a Western hunt or maybe one of your dream hunts and you don't really even know where to start. Well, that's where East to West Hunts comes in. We take care of everything for you. We'll do the tag applications. We just need to put a strategy in play for you of what you're trying to do and when you're trying to go. Whether it's short term, mid-term, or long term, we want to have that play and that strategy together. And when you do draw a tag, we can look at do-it-yourself options such as hunt plans that detail out exactly how to hunt those areas, or we can get you booked with a guide and outfitter in that specific unit or area. So don't leave that hunt to chance. Give us a call, set up a time on the website, contact us on social media, whatever it is, and let's get planning towards that dream hunt of yours. And let's make it a reality. Check us out on www.east2westhunts.com. Again, that is www.east2westhunts.com. Also check us out on Instagram, YouTube, and podcast. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.